Hey YouTube, Mark Coffman here, and today I want to talk about two-layered Swiss Army knives. Now, what do I mean by two layers? I mean there are two layers of tools within the knife, so that's where that terminology comes from. And I'm going to start with the Rambler. It is a 58mm knife, and personally I feel like there are a lot more options out there in regards to two-layer knives and what Victorinox and Wenger had to offer. Now, personally, some sack enthusiasts believe that there are a better selection in 3 or 4 layer knives, or even 5. Now, I personally think there are a lot of good options for you within the 2-layer selection, but there are also some great options within a 3-layer or 4-layer. Once you hit up to 5, you're starting to really pack on some weight when it comes to the multi-tool. So, back to the Rambler. This thing has a small little magnetized Phillips wire stripper and cap lifter. Has your blade, and then it also has your nail file on the back here and flathead screwdriver, and it has a small pair of scissors. It doesn't have a spring. I've removed that for another knife, so there's that. But the reason why I'm doing this video is just to show you a few models that I personally have that fit into the 2-layer selection, and maybe you might find something in here that you might want to pick up and start carrying. So here is a vintage Victorinox Director. Now, by no means can you just go out and buy one of these. These things are getting pretty hard to find. And it's essentially the same as a Executive from Victorinox. You've got a main blade, which is here. Then you have a orange peeler and a flathead screwdriver right up here. Then over here you have your smaller pen blade. And then on this end you have your scissors. Now this is a vintage pair. It has a single leaf spring. Victorinox actually stopped doing that in 1975. So whenever you find one of these that has that one leaf spring in it, you could probably be safe to say that it's pre-1975. Then you have your nail file and nail cleaner. So that is the Director. Now essentially the Director, the Executive is the same as the Director. Has all the same tools, except you get a toothpick and tweezers with it. And they did make, and I mean by they, Victorinox did make a Director with a key ring, but those are a little harder to find. Most of the time you'll find them without the key ring. Now here is the Executive. Essentially has all the same tools on it, but there's some differences because this is a younger one. You've got no knurled curve at the end of the nail cleaner. And then as for the scissors, you actually have a double leaf spring there. So just a little bit of a difference there. Now we've got a Standard. This is essentially a Spartan, but why they called it the Standard is because you don't have toothpick or tweezers. So this is a Victorinox Standard. And for me personally, this is one of my favorite models of Victorinox's. It's just no nonsense. I don't really use the tweezers or toothpick all that much. So personally, like having that option of just not having that breakup in the red scale here is kind of nice to have. And then not having the key ring jingling around all the time is a nice thing to have. Also, I have added a small micro screwdriver, but essentially on the Spartan, you've got a main blade. And this is the Standard, but it's the same thing as Spartan. You've got your cap lifter and screwdriver and wire stripper. And then you've got your can opener, and then you've got a flathead screwdriver there as well. So essentially that is a Standard, but then you've got the Spartan, which has the key ring and then has a toothpick and tweezer here. All the same tools that are offered here, but I still feel like the Spartan is a great choice, especially if your needs and tools are very, very limited. Here's another Spartan, and this is just another one that I have. It has a corkscrew and all, and then you have the corkscrew here, and one of the older features of the corkscrew is this knurling that is in there. So I don't think I went over this one with the awl, but you can definitely see that the awl here has a hole, but the awl over here doesn't. And they stopped doing that mid-90s. So Here is another knife here. This is the Tinker. The only difference between the Tinker and the Spartan are essentially you get the 3D Phillips in the back. Now, this is a very useful Phillips driver, but you really cannot be in a tight space at all with it. Really, this is just used for tightening down screws, and I don't really abuse that at all. Now, next up is the Sportsman. Now, the Sportsman here is probably one of my favorite Victorinox knives to date. It is just so versatile. It is an 4mm framed knife. These are all 91s, and then these are 74, and then that's a 58. So this one's a 84mm knife, and it's essentially the same thing as a Spartan, but what you gain is a nail file. So you get something a little more useful to you than a secondary blade. Now, here is a Victorinox Evolution, and I believe this is the 13. Either the Evolution 13 or 10, correct me if I'm wrong, but this here is just basically a Wenger absorbed Victorinox. So this here is essentially Wenger's handles and a few of their tools, but it is made by Victorinox. So you've got your main blade, you've got your Wenger style cap lifter and flathead screwdriver, and then you've got your can opener, which is a Victorinox styled can opener, but then you have your Wenger styled nail cleaner and nail file, and then you've got a Victorinox styled reamer in the back. So that is another really good option if you're looking at 2-layered knives and you just want to have something compact. This one's 84mm, this one's 85mm, so just 1 millimeter larger. This is the Wenger Sportsman, and it's essentially this knife, but with all of Wenger's tools. So what you'd get is Wenger's can opener, which is substantially different, and then you'd of course get the Wenger cap lifter and screwdriver, and then you get the Wenger blade, and then you get the Wenger styled nail cleaner and nail file. And then you get their awl, which I find is very useful for leather. I find the Victorinox awl very useful for harder materials like wood or plastics. And this one here, I've had a hard time poking holes through plastics with, but when it comes to the Victorinox one, no problem. So you have that, and that's an 85mm knife. This is essentially the same thing, just from a different age. This is from the late 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and it's essentially got the same tool set. So these are great knives, but they're getting harder and harder to find, especially in conditions like this. Next up is an 84mm knife from Victorinox, and this is the Cadet. Now this is an ALOX scaled knife, and ALOX essentially means aluminum oxide coated knife, and it's just a basically aluminum oxide, but it's a aluminum scale that is very, very thin, and Victorinox likes to put out colors like purple, blue, green, all sorts of different colors, and they usually reserve those for limited editions. But this one here is just a standard run-of-the-mill in red, and this one here has a cap lifter and has your can opener, main blade, and then it has the nail file. But unlike the Sportsman, you have no back tools. So this here, I don't carry this all that much, but it really is useful when you are in the office and you're probably wearing slacks and you can't have a knife that's too heavy. Now here is the Adventurer. This is a 2-layer knife also, but this is in Victorinox's 111mm size range, and this here is a very, very useful camping tool. I would probably take this camping with me before I take a Buck 110, but this one has a much larger cap lifter flathead, and it actually locks into place via a liner lock. So you've got a great lock up there. You've got a small can opener here. I wish Victorinox would just make a specific can opener for the 111mm, but they just choose to use the run-of-the-mill sized one. So you get only 3 real tools on this side: the knife blade, cap lifter, can opener, and no small blade. But then you get the Phillips head, the 3D Phillips, and that's a very useful tool, and I think that'd be very useful while camping. But you could also replace that with a corkscrew, and then that would be the picnicker. But then you have this reamer, and you can notice that they do not have the hole here. I don't know why they don't put holes in the 111 millimeter frames, but they just don't. That doesn't mean this is older. It just means that they just don't do that for this specific model. So there's that 2-layer. And then here is the Victorinox Pioneer. This is a Alox scaled knife, and this is a limited edition made in 2019. And like I said, they can make these in all sorts of colors. This is their champagne or gold. And this one here has a large main blade, then has your can opener, small screwdriver, cap lifter, large screwdriver, and wire stripper, but then also has an awl. Now this awl is very, very, very effective, and I find it to be very useful. I think it's a little better than the awl that you find on all these other ones, just because it's inline and you can probably do a little more work with it. But I just really wanted to quickly go over some of the 2-layer options that you have in Swiss Army knives. I mean, there are so many more options out there, and there are a few rare ones that are out there that I don't have. But these are some of the ones that you can easily find, except for the Director. But most of these you can still find on the secondary market, and I think they would be great options to add to your EDC. So if you carry any of these, let me know down in the comments, and if you have anything to add, let me know, because I don't have the entire collection of 2-layer knives from Victorinox or Wenger, so I may be missing one or two. So till the next one, I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.